Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Carl Piltz, and in this lesson we're going to be talking about the concepts of productivity, focus, and mental energy. How do we get more of it? We're going to answer these basic questions. Why do we feel tired a lot? Why do we find it hard to focus? And why do we find it hard to focus for long periods of time? And a lot of us are fighting how to dance around our productive hours of the day. Some of us are most productive in the morning. Some of us are most productive in the afternoon. Some of us have pockets of productivity and pockets where we are just dragging. And we're trying to schedule our tasks around these productive hours. And this is such a pain. How do I make it so that I'm the most productive all the time? The basic concept that we are going to talk about today is brain chemistry. More specifically, how our body makes important brain chemicals. There are brain chemicals that are responsible for making us productive, able to focus, ready to take action. There are also brain chemicals that make us feel optimistic and confident. Then there are also brain chemicals that make us be able to relax and enjoy life. There are brain chemicals that make us feel this way. So we're going to learn about them. One of the things I'm going to show you is that if you remember from the last lesson, if you remember this graph, this is a graph of what happens to our blood sugar whenever we eat sugar and white carbohydrates. And in the last lesson, I showed you how this directly causes fat gain. Now what I'm going to show you in this lesson is that eating sugar and white carbohydrates directly sabotages our mental energy, our productivity, focus, and optimism. It makes us feel like crap. And I'm going to show you exactly how. I'm also going to teach you a few secrets that pharmaceutical companies have. Mainly, how antidepressant drugs work. And what we can do is if we understand the concepts of how these drugs work, we can take that knowledge and use natural means of accomplishing the same goal. And here's the kicker. When we learn how to do it naturally, we can actually do things that pharmaceutical drugs cannot. So I'll repeat, if we learn how to do it naturally, then we can do things more powerful than those antidepressant drugs. And I'll show you how. And when we learn this, what we can do is we can put ourselves in the ultimate state of energy, focus, and productivity whenever and wherever we want. Because now we know how it works. So the basic thing that we have to understand is what is a neurotransmitter. A neurotransmitter is basically a chemical, a brain chemical, that makes your neurons talk to each other. In your brain there are electric signals firing all the time. And when one neuron is talking to another neuron, they need neurotransmitters to help transmit that signal. So we don't have to get too deep into details, but all you need to know is that more neurotransmitters means more brain activity. And that translates to better thinking, which also translates to more mental energy, more productivity, more ability to focus. This is where all those feelings come from. So how about a little introduction to our neurotransmitters? Because I know you've heard of a lot of them. The first one is serotonin. Serotonin is a brain chemical that is our natural antidepressant. When our serotonin is high, it makes us feel calm, confident, optimistic. Basically, when your serotonin is high, you feel ready for anything, unshakable. The next group of neurotransmitters are adrenaline, which is also known as epinephrine, noradrenaline, which is also known as norepinephrine, and dopamine. These are a group of brain chemicals that are known as catecholamines. And these are our action and focus brain chemicals. When these brain chemicals are at optimum levels, we have all the energy and focus that we need. Caffeine actually stimulates these brain chemicals. But as I teach you in a later lesson, if you use caffeine to get these feelings of focus and taking action, you will see that using caffeine to get those feelings is like taking out a home loan at 75% APR. You would never do it. But that's the next lesson. But if our catecholamines are high, if our adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine are high, then we have focus and we have mental energy. The next group of neurotransmitters are endorphins. We've all heard about endorphins. They're responsible for feelings of exhilaration, feeling the rush, that kind of thing. Endorphins really give you the ability to enjoy life. So the point of all this is, when all these brain chemicals, when all these neurotransmitters are optimized, we feel energetic, focused, positive, happy, and most of all, when all these things are combined, we are productive. So, how are these neurotransmitters made? Well, they're made from amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. You see, a protein, like beef or chicken, is actually a chain of different amino acids strung together. So if you look down below, this chain as a mass is a protein. So this is the beef or chicken or beans or whatever. This is protein. But it's a chain of all these different amino acids: tryptophan, glutamine, alanine, leucine. These are all amino acids that when you string them together, they make a protein. So when we eat protein, our body starts breaking it down. And during digestion, the protein breaks down into individual amino acids. So now they are no longer in a chain. Now they are just individual amino acids. And after they're done digesting, they go into our bloodstream. And they circulate through the body. And they're used for a whole lot of things: making hormones, making muscle, making blood, and especially making neurotransmitters. So, which amino acids make some of those brain chemicals, some of those neurotransmitters? Well, when these amino acids reach your brain, tryptophan will combine with vitamins to make serotonin. And so we feel optimistic and confident, ready to take on anything. Tyrosine will combine with vitamins to make your catecholamines, or your adrenaline, and your noradrenaline, and your dopamine. So you have all the focus and mental energy and ready to take action. That comes from tyrosine. Phenylalanine is another amino acid that will combine with vitamins, and that will produce your endorphins. So now we can relax and enjoy our lives. So that is how some of those brain chemicals are made. So one thing I want to get across to you is how powerful these brain chemicals are. These brain chemicals are so incredibly powerful that these are the brain chemicals that are targeted by drug companies when they make antidepressants. Let's talk a little bit about how antidepressant drugs work. Antidepressant drugs are separated into types. The first type is what's known as an SSRI, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And what these drugs do is keep the serotonin that is in your brain active longer. You see, what happens with these brain chemicals is the amino acids will combine with vitamins to make these brain chemicals, like serotonin. And then serotonin will be circulating in your brain, and at some point it will go dormant. And what these SSRIs do is they simply block serotonin from going dormant. So SSRIs keep serotonin floating around in your brain longer. Some of the drugs that fall into this category are Prozac, Zoloft, Luvox, Paxil, Lexapro, and Celexa. Those are all SSRI drugs. Another group is SNRI antidepressant drugs, or serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. They do the same thing, only they keep serotonin and norepinephrine active longer. Some of the drugs that do this are Effexor, Pristiq, and Cymbalta. The earliest type of antidepressant drugs are MAOIs, or monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Monoamine oxidase is an enzyme that causes these brain chemicals to go dormant. And what MAOIs do is block this enzyme. So in essence, it does the same thing. It keeps these brain chemicals active longer. Some of the drugs that fall into this category are Marplan, Nardil, Emsym, and Parnate. MAOIs were the first group of antidepressant drugs to come out, and they have since been replaced by SSRIs and SNRIs. There's also a group called SDRIs. And those drugs focus on dopamine, on blocking the reuptake of dopamine. But let's think about something. When you look at these, what do all these drugs do? These drugs all keep the brain chemicals that you have active longer. What do they not do? None of these drugs cause your body to make more of these brain chemicals. They simply keep what you have active longer. So the first question that comes to mind is what happens if you have few brain chemicals to begin with, and there's not much to keep active? The answer is that these drugs will have very little benefit for you. If you have no serotonin, SSRIs will not do anything for you because there's nothing to keep active. So what usually the strategy is they'll put you on an SSRI and see if that works for you. Well, if it doesn't, because you have no serotonin, then they give you a different type of antidepressant to see if maybe you have norepinephrine that we can keep high that makes you feel better. And if that doesn't work, they send you to a different antidepressant that targets a different brain chemical, hoping that they can find one that you have some of so it makes you feel better. Take a look at some of the brain chemistry resources that I have linked to below, and you can get an education for yourself on the different types of antidepressants out there, how they work, and their side effects. So let me ask you another question. If there are a ton of people on antidepressant drugs, and they're receiving significant benefits from some of these antidepressants, but all that those antidepressants are doing is keeping the brain chemicals that you already have active longer, if that is having a powerful effect, how powerful do you think it would be if we learned how to give you more of these brain chemicals? Not just keep what you have active, but teach you how to build more of them. You would see an even more powerful effect than if you were to take antidepressant drugs. And to be honest, once you learn how this works and learn how to control this, your life will never be the same. When you can completely control when you're productive, when you're focused, when you have energy, when you have all these great feelings, your life changes. It did for me. And this is what I'm going to show you. So all this talk about neurotransmitters and how they work, their names, and all that stuff can be very confusing. But really the only thing that you need to know is that all meat and dairy products contain all of these amino acids that are needed to make these brain chemicals. All of them. Now if you're a vegetarian, grains and vegetables only contain different combinations. Not all of them. Meat and dairy are what are known as complete proteins, meaning they have all the essential amino acids. Grains and vegetables are not. So if you're a vegetarian, then you need to do some homework on how to get the right combinations of grains and vegetables so that you get all the necessary amino acids. But the main point is, if you eat enough protein, then you will get the necessary amino acids to make the important brain chemicals. So that's it. All we need to do is really eat protein, that's it. Sounds pretty easy. Not really. There is a catch. And the catch is, if we eat sugar and white carbohydrates, then we sabotage our brain chemistry. Let's see how. When we eat sugar and white carbohydrates, our blood sugar spikes, just like we were talking about in the last lesson on blood sugar. When this happens, your pancreas will release insulin to bring your blood sugar level back down to the normal range. And when your pancreas releases insulin, as a result of a blood sugar spike, then typically too much insulin is released, which removes too much blood sugar, and it flushes that extra blood sugar into your cells. Now what's important here for brain chemistry is that insulin also takes amino acids with it. And the result is that these amino acids do not make it into your brain. And the main result is that these brain chemicals are not being formed, because the raw materials for these brain chemicals are not reaching our brain. Let's take a look at what happens on this graph. Here's the graph. On the horizontal axis is time. On the vertical axis is our blood sugar level. So we're looking at what happens to our blood sugar level over time. And here on this black curve is the remaining blood sugar from our previous meal. And it's getting a little bit low, so we're getting hungry. So we're going to eat a meal. And let's say that we eat a meal that's full of sugar. And what's going to happen is your blood sugar will spike. As a result of this blood sugar spike, your pancreas will release insulin in order to bring your blood sugar back down to the normal level. But since it was such a big blood sugar spike, your pancreas releases too much insulin, which removes too much blood sugar, and this causes a blood sugar crash. But insulin will also take amino acids with it, and it either flushes them out of your body or it stores them as fat. because your body can take too much protein and turn it into sugar, and it can be stored as fat. But the result here is that no amino acids make it to your brain to make these important brain chemicals. So we feel tired, unmotivated, depressed, negative, and above all, unproductive. So, what do I do? What do I do so that I feel at optimum levels? So that I'm the most productive, the most energetic, the most focused, all that. Well, step number 1 is eat enough protein. Protein provides the amino acids to build these brain chemicals. And what we want is between 20 and 40 grams of protein per meal, so 3 times a day. And where you fall on the 20 to 40 grams of protein scale depends on, if men will need more than women, if you're bigger then you need more than if you're smaller. Typically, if you're a guy, you want 40 grams of protein per meal. If you're a smaller person, if you're 100 pounds, you may only need 20 to 30. 30 is a good round number. And just to give you an idea, 7 ounces of chicken breast has 39 grams of protein. And it's pretty much the same for all meats. 7 ounces of meat is about 40 grams of protein. So that's what you're aiming for. Eggs have about 5 grams of protein per egg. So if you have for breakfast 4 eggs and an 8-ounce glass of milk, that's almost 30 grams of protein right there. And then you can have some yogurt or cottage cheese or something else along with it to get you up to 40. Step number 2 is to replace the sugar and white carbohydrates in your diet with slow digesting carbs. Whole grains if you're going to eat grains like rice and bread and stuff like that. And a lot of vegetables. These carbohydrates will digest slowly, so there is no blood sugar spike and no blood sugar crash. And this will prevent amino acids from being wasted. It'll prevent the amino acids from being taken away from your brain by insulin and preventing you from making these important brain chemicals. Doing this will give us the brain chemicals that we need in order to have the feelings in our life that we want. Step number 3 is add healthy fats. We talked earlier in my lesson on appetite, how fat stabilizes your appetite and keeps you feeling full longer. The other thing that it does is it slows digestion of everything. And what this does is it provides a slow, steady supply of these brain chemicals to your brain. So not only do you get more of these brain chemicals, but they come at you slower and more steady, so that these brain chemicals and these good feelings last you for a whole lot longer. So the main take home from this is you really need to take care of your neurotransmitters. The secret to finding the ultimate state of mental energy, focus, and productivity lie in you taking care of these neurotransmitters, making sure that you have a lot of them and you're not doing anything that will prevent them from doing their jobs. Pharmaceutical companies know the value of these neurotransmitters. That's why they pour hundreds of millions of dollars into research into these brain chemicals. But drug companies cannot patent a drug that will make you make more of these neurotransmitters, because that is a natural process which is done by food, and therefore it is not allowed to be patented. So we need to take advantage of that. We can take advantage of this and build up our neurotransmitters. And when you do, you will be shocked at the amount that you can get done, because now your brain is functioning the way it was meant to. When you have a fully functioning brain, you will be amazed at what you're able to get done. So thank you very much, guys, and I hope to see you in the next lesson.